Welcome another amazing week here in DEGA Spaces. What's this week bringing to us? I don't know. Let's hear it from our CEO and founder, Carlos. Carlos, my friend, how are you? Good morning.
Hey there, Free. Good morning.
Good.
Oh, good, man.
Starting the week.
Just happy to see you again.
How was your weekend, bro?
It was good. It was good. Like every weekend, I do keep focused on DEGA, so it is a work weekend, you could say. But it was great. I did take time to spend with family and also relax a little bit.
That's important. We need you fresh. We need your mind connected. We need your rest and connection with the family and everything. We need Carlos at full throttle mode.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, it's definitely. I always think that life is about contrast, not balance, right? Like work intensely and also relax intensely.
Yeah, I don't think balance. I also agree balance is not the right word. That's like high expectations, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
So I
How about
want to
yourself?
remind. Oh, it was. How do I call it? Mindfully rested, physically
Mm-hmm.
exhausted.
Mm. You
Now
went
we
on a
got
hike
this.
or something?
Now we had a lot of how do you say compromises, friends going around, picking up one daughter like at the 3 hour trip and stuff like that, But it was cool. It was cool.
Uh, in English, it's commitment, not compromise. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
What's the difference between commitment and compromise?
I don't know, but you usually say commitment when you're like, when you have a weekend full of commitments. Like you gotta visit your
Okay.
cousin, you gotta go and
Yes.
see your grandmother, whatever.
Okay.
You usually say commitment, not
It's a
compromise.
compromiso en español. Okay. And commitment in
Yeah,
English.
yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So I want to remind everyone that we have our daily challenge and there's a chance to win 1,000 DEGA token every day. All you have to do is share, like, mention 3 friends for our tweet and help us reach further audiences and you get the chance to win 1,000 DEGA tokens. Today's daily topic, Carlos, is going to be about technology and vision of DEGA. We're going deep into some of the concepts you've been working and we all been working, and we're gonna be talking about like in depth more about this stuff. So, do you want to start? Let's begin. I have several questions to ask you.
Sure. I mean, on my side, that's good. It would be great, like if you said just like, why do you think that it's important that we touch base upon this?
Because there's new people coming to our community. We're ready, we're getting ready to onboard the Polkadot people and launch the Polkadot side of the ISPO. There's been new flow of community members coming into the spaces, coming into Dega's Discord, Dega's Telegram. So I think we should touch base on the basics, some touch
Mm.
base on the deep part of what we're doing, so everyone understands the whole vision because it's a big vision. So, so the idea also for this is to start making little clips of content out of these Dega spaces, so we can share it concept by concept, so people can digest it in a video in small format ways and understand what Dega is.
All right. Well, that's cool. Okay, happy to do so on my side, man. I mean, that this is the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So let's hit it off.
Okay, so my first question to Mr. Carlos is, can you explain the concept of DEGA in simple terms?
Sure, happy to do so. So DEGA means decentralizar gaming, decentralized gaming, right? So that's why it's DEGA, not DIGA, right? It's actually in Spanish. And DEGA is a vision, right? A vision to be able to empower people around the world to project their creativity into the digital economy, right? And we started off with gaming because we believe that gamers, well, we don't believe, we know that gamers are digitally native, right? They understand the value of digital things. And also, we're heading towards the gamification of everything, right? So that vision makes sense. And that's why we're building the tooling to enable that vision, right? It's tooling that is going to be open source, that it has to be mobile first, of course, and we are particularly passionate about it, right? Because we're coming from emerging markets where something as simple as getting paid digitally can be an extremely daunting challenge, right? Unlike, I mean, if you're in the United States, if you're in Europe, if you're in Japan, getting paid digitally isn't that big of a challenge. It's not. I don't want to say that like there's no challenge in being an innovator, but at least the basics are covered, right? So we're coming from a world in which the basics are not covered, right? And that's why we're building Dega.
Nice. And that's what brought us all here together, That's what the team is about, and we're all striving to get there. But going even further, is what was it that inspired you to create Dega?
Well, first off, I would have to explain what inspired me to be in blockchain, right? In Web3. I think that for most of us here, it's the freedom, right? The fact that you can own your digital assets, the fact that you can build in open API systems without having to ask for permission. I think that's, in short, that kind of covers what inspired all of us to be here, right? Freedom, liberty, the capability to be able to act, to incarnate your vision without having to ask for permission. Now, particularly in Dega's case, it's about my version of that vision, right? Like, which I just described, right? Empowering creators around the world. Because everybody can have their own version of it, right? Like, I've talked to a lot of people in different ecosystems, and a lot of them right now they're telling me, oh, what I would like is to onboard the banks, and I'm like, yeah, it's not that it's a bad thing, of course, by all means do it, but I'm like, dude, the banks already have all the money. They don't need more money, right? The banks are not, even in the bad times, they're having good times, and that's, in that kind of sense. Um, and I see a lot of people focused on, hey, I want to bring, I don't know, crypto to credit cards in the United States or in Europe. I'm like, bro, everybody has a credit card. That's not a big of a challenge, right? Whether they can load it with crypto or not. But for us in emerging market, we certainly see that there's a lot of people without identity, for example, right? Like most of the refugees come from emerging markets. Uh, Having access to something as simple as credit and capital to be able to innovate is something insanely complicated in most emerging markets, and so forth, right? Like we all know our problems, right? Those of us who come from it, we all know our problems. So I think that Web3 and my version of Web3, which is specifically oriented to the people that have these needs, is why DEGA exists, right? That's
and
kind
and
of like,
and, and that all connects. It would what is the big differentiator of DEGA from, from another Web3 game developer ecosystems or stuff like that? What makes DEGA special?
Um, you mean from a technological perspective, from a community perspective?
Today's it's about technology and vision, so both of those. But if you want to expand it more, it's okay. You can go further.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would say most of the people in the Web3 world, most of our colleagues, whom, to be clear, I respect a lot, right? There's very few people in this industry that I would say that are real builders, right? Because obviously there's always the people that are just trying to take advantage of hype, and there's the people that actually want to provide value. And among those that want to provide values that are professionals in this industry, they're very intelligent, right? We always hear the criticism about how much noise there is in the space, but there's also there's those who are signal in this space are a very intense signal, and what do I mean by that? I mean they're tackling difficult issues, right, or difficult problems. Um, in computer science, there's kind of like two very hard things that you could want to do, which is AI, of course. Artificial intelligence has a very high level of complexity. And then the other thing is distributed systems, which is where blockchain falls into, right? The cloud also falls into this. So wanting to do distributed system is very complicated, right? In general, in computer science. If somebody wants to know why, then you're welcome to trying to build one of these distributed systems. So there's a lot of respect that I have for a lot of them, but I would have to say that the key differentiator between most of them and us is the fact that we have one, a product mindset, I would have to say, because many of them are building Web3 systems for Web3 people. So they're like they assume you already have a Web3 wallet. They assume that you understand, what a layer one is, what a layer two is, what an EVM is, what a non-EVM system is. They have so many assumptions in the way that they build their product that it just like it's either you've been in the space 2 or 3 years or you can't use their product. That's basically it, right? Versus what we have, like in DEGA, the way that we're approaching things is we're assuming that you don't know the space, right? And to be perfectly clear and honest, right, this is something that we're doing in stages, right? It's not that like right now, if you use the ISPO, of course you gotta know how Web3 works, right? But the end solution that we envision is that one, right? A vision of people that don't need to care about the technology to be able to use it. And I think that most of our colleagues don't even have that vision, right? Because somebody could say, oh, well, maybe other products are also, just a little bit early. I think that most of them really don't care about the experience. Most of them, they're just trying to make something for Web3 people, which is fine. And we love them for it. They make our work easier, right? Like every open source module out there, every new protocol, every new type of system, algorithm that is built that makes a few steps, simpler. They take 30 steps and make it seven. That's great, right? So we love them for that. But they're making our job easier. They're not making the consumer or the non-technical person's job or life easier. So I would kind of say that that's a very different approach that we're taking from everybody else.
And that connects me with the next step because my question was going to be around the chat interface, AI assisted chat interface, and I guess AI assisted chat interface and how it benefits. I don't think only developers, also the users and the gamers and everyone in the community.
Mm. Yeah, it's not a, I mean, there's obviously personas, right? Like You are a developer, you're an artist, you're a user of a given application, but the personas are infinite, right? Like, like if we had to pick how many personas there are, let's say on the internet, right? If we saw the internet as a product, how many personas are there in the internet, right? There's infinite personas, right? There's a content creator, and within content creator, you can say, well, image creator, then there's the video creator, and so forth. So it's infinite, right? It's anything that can be is in that sense, right? So I would have to say that the reason that we've taken up, particularly before, I would say not even it's not even about AI. It's about, if we have to put it in one word, I would have to say it's language, right? So it's about language. And then, what's the language that people have, right? Like obviously speaking, right, with your words, that's one way of communication. And then there's written communication, right? And within written communication, there's, I would have to say, what we call UX, right? Application UX, which is your buttons, right? You read a button, you read a label, right? You see a form, you see a structure, that's a written language, right? And there's obviously you could say videos, animations, right? When an application, for example, when you move your finger, you slide it, and then it keeps giving you this never-ending slide of content, right? So you're seeing images, you're seeing video, but you're also seeing text, right? So it's all part of the same concept in terms of language, right? It's a language, it's a way of communication. So applications are about properly structuring this flow of language so that you can communicate or you can take the end user on this adventure, on this path that you want to show them. But obviously, the most flexible way of, the most flexible structure of this UX is the pure written language that you speak, right? And that way, you can present that through chat. Chat is the most flexible way to do that, right? Like if I had to design a new way of presenting stuff to you every time that we spoke, like, hey freak, and then I would have to come in here and have a way of structuring labels and images and videos and stuff like that. When instead of just saying things to you, then that would make our communication way more complicated, right? So AI comes to supercharge this basic form of communication, of text communication, right? Since I can feed the AI with, you know, APIs, I can feed it with new content, and it learns it very quickly and understands it and then structures it in a new way for you to be able to utilize it. So that's why chat and AI are going to be primarily, from our perspective, right, a way to interact and automate the access to Web3 features, right? We're talking about a world in which you can ask the AI to do things for you in what people call, the blockchain. We're actually talking about many different types of blockchains and protocols. But in general, you're going to ask it to do things instead of you having to go and learn a tutorial and access an API documentation that'll take you 3 days to understand. Instead of doing all of that, you'll just say, hey, in a chat-based system, hey, can you, mint a new collection and make it immutable, or I don't know, or give me a 3D asset based on this and that, and it'll work. Then the AI will do the heavy lifting and the work for you, and then you can just dedicate yourself to either your creative vision or your business, or whatever it is that your focus is.
And I saw it in action in the video we have in YouTube in the demo video, and it's amazing. And also seeing the APIs working like that fast, like having developers creating their meta chains and everything. It's insane and it's beautiful to see it. I hope like our community can see it soon, because it's a real. I don't know how do you say, it's a real change for us that are coming into Web3, and we have like 20 different wallets. You know, we have like phrases hitting all over the house and buried in the backyard. I'm not gonna tell you where mine are buried, but
Uh,
but but it's insane. It's just seeing the simplicity and waiting for it to become a thing. It's just amazing. A big
no,
change.
and to be fair, it's not even a Web3 thing, right? Like, I mean, that's why AI is popular because it's simplifying the access to information in general, right? That's why a lot of people were saying, are these new AI models going to make Google obsolete, right? That was a question because the answer right now, as they are now, they still can't do that, right? Because they sometimes give you an answer and they say like, "Yeah, I'm sure this is the answer," and that's not true, right? Like I've seen it. So even though even though they're so primitive, they are insanely useful. So it's not only about Web3, it's in general, right? The access to information and the capability to automate and simplify and make quick responses for your needs. That's what's powerful about this AI system. So not only in blockchain, but look forward to seeing them integrated and operating almost everything that anybody ever does in their digital world.
And I know there are some challenges and some, yeah, that we need as DEGA to overcome, you know, in blockchain and gaming, metaverse, and all this world. But what are some of those challenges that you foresee and that you're aiming to overcome?
I'd say that the main challenge that we need to overcome is to be able to identify the key use cases that bring value to people and optimize the experience for those use cases, right? Because, like, to give you an example, right? The other day, I had this funny conversation with somebody. And I don't mean to be, teasing that person in that sense, but they were like, "Hey, Carlos, and like, can we use your API to upload images directly on chain?" And I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And it's like, "Yeah, we want to upload the image on the blockchain." I was like, "But you know that's like we can do it. That's not even a challenge, right? We can actually get the binary code there." But it's like you don't want to do that. You don't want to upload massive files on a blockchain. You usually want to do something like use a hash system. You want to use a different protocol, right? Something like IPFS or Arweave, or even if you want to invent a new one, that's fine. But you don't want to use a blockchain system, a transactional based system to upload files. That's like it doesn't make sense. It's too expensive, and you don't really get anything valuable out of it. And it was kind of hard having that conversation, like just trying to convey that. They were like, "But why? Like, that would be special for us, you know." And it's kind of like an engineering conversation, right? I would have to go into depths of why that, different file types. It just doesn't make sense to do a file like an image or an audio or a video and then upload that directly on a blockchain. Um, and that goes to show that even and the person I was talking to belongs to a blockchain team. Like they build blockchains. So that goes to show that even today, even among the people within the industry building solutions, they still don't get why a blockchain is valuable, right? Because that's kind of like what I took away from that, right? They didn't understand the true value proposition. So that happens a lot. That's just an example, but it happens a lot in general in our space, right? So people are just like, whatever, put it on a blockchain, right? Like I've seen people try to do a whole bunch of different types of systems that I could easily tell, dude, that's not the right thing that you want to do for a blockchain, right? So I'd say that even going forward, we all believe that we know we're everybody here in this space is convinced that they understand and know why a blockchain is valuable, right? But what tells me that we're wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but we haven't refined it enough, is the fact that we have a few million users of blockchain, and you have billions of people with access to the internet, right? So why isn't blockchain as pervasive as WhatsApp, right, or as Telegram, or as Instagram, or as any of these other systems, right? And the reason is the experience, the access to it, and the need for it, right? So we can all think about something right now that people need, like a very simple example is access to digital money, right? Like I don't think anybody would argue that having access to, the dollar, dollar-based accounts is useful. Almost everybody on the planet runs dollars. Why why don't they have that, right? Why aren't they using DAI or USDT or USDC or any of the other stable coins? And the reason is that it hasn't been structured as a proper product that they can easily access at low cost and that they have a use case for it, right? Because I see a lot of people arguing about the technology, right? Anybody, you can find anybody in the industry that will argue why stablecoins are not used in mass adoption from a technology perspective, but they can't explain why it's not accessible from a product perspective, right? Because you can go through the hurdles and use it. So the problem is not the fact that the technology isn't there to scale to every use case, but the fact that people are not willing to go through the hurdles to use it, even in its current form, right? So that's kind of like the biggest challenge that DEGA has and that everybody has in this industry, right? Identifying the proper use cases, right, that people are really willing to go into this technology for, and designing that experience that makes it worth it, right? Like meeting in the middle in that sense. Like we're kind of like really far away right now. The builders and the audience that we want to target, and then there's a point in the middle where we create the experience and where they're willing to go through that experience and connect with the product that we're building. So I think that's kind of like the biggest challenge for everybody going forward.
And knowing you like for a while right now and having like really mindful conversations, I've seen you and I know that you're one of the greatest systemic thinkers that there are
Systems,
out there.
you usually use the term systems thinkers.
It's not systemic.
Systemic is about something that has an influence on the system, like you would say a systemic risk, for example,
Oh no, so
right?
it's system thinking. Yes. So
Yes,
sorry
systems
for the
thinking.
translations in my Spanish, but is system thinking, and this is the way you build everything in Dega and the Dega vision. But that also translate to the way you're using technology, not only creating it but also using the existing one. So I would love for you to talk about the underlying technology that powers Dega and how it leverages Web3 and AI to provide that unique experience you're looking for developers and for the different users in Dega.
So the tactic we use is going to be evolving on stage, on stages of maturity, right? Like just like everything in real life, it takes time for it to be matured. So right now, you are actually the one leading the AI implementations that we're using in DECA, right? And you're basically going about it using workshops and putting together a whole bunch of tools and setting up processes for people to use, right? So in the future, probably some of those processes are going to be built into the tools that we use every day, right? Like you're going to be able to use it directly from Twitter, from Photoshop, from Telegram. And then on the blockchain side of things, it's also the same, right? Right now, we have to use a whole bunch of different types of applications, different types of modules from different teams. And in the future, they're probably going to be more integrated, right, in a seamless way. So, in terms of DEGA particularly, what we're focused on, I can tell you now that for the foreseeable future, we want to standardize everything on top of EVM systems. That's why, on top of Cardano, for example, we want to bring an EVM layer two, and then on top of that, build out multiple middleware systems and then make it seamless to use them across the board. So wherever we are, we're going to be building on top of these types of technologies. As time goes forward, we're certainly not limited to that. Like we're happy to work with other types of systems, like WebAssembly, EUTXO, which is the one that Cardano uses. The other day, I was checking out the libraries and tooling built out by the Mina protocol, which is a zero knowledge proof based system. Um, that they actually have particularly interesting technology. But the point is that all of these types of systems and components we want to integrate, but we want to make it so that it doesn't feel like it's that complicated for the end user. And a simple example is Gmail, right? Like when you access Gmail, you're using HTTPS, you're using SSL, you're using HTML, you're using TCP/IP, and a whole host of other applications. Like every single layer uses a different type of application, right? Your Wi-Fi has protocols. Your router has protocols. The internet provider has a whole host of different telecommunication protocols that they follow, right? So, but you couldn't care less, right? Like you really don't think about any of those when you open up your phone or your laptop. So that's kind of like the same type of experience that we want to bring to blockchain by taking EVM systems, taking zero knowledge proof systems, taking meta transaction systems, taking EUDXO systems, and just building out the layers underneath and the abstractions that allow you to use Web3 without you thinking about it, right? So I would say DEGA is more a solutions based approach than a protocol based approach. Like we can use whatever protocol wins, we'll use it, right? So if EVM is very popular right now, we'll use that. If something else becomes more popular, we'll use that as well. We're not religious about the technology. We're religious about the end goals that we want to reach with the technology.
So that's awesome because that also allows you to adapt. Like you said it, like I've been into AI and obsessed with AI, but the fast pace of this evolving technology is insane. So keeping up with that level of speed in technology is also present in blockchain and in gaming. So it kind of like gives us information and understanding how you plan on rapidly evolving with that. How do you
Yeah.
deal with it?
No, I mean it's definitely a challenge, and there's always a bet that you're making, right? Like to give you an example, right? Let's say that we bet on EVM right now, right? And then suddenly Apple and Google announce that they're jointly doing this new Web3 standard, and they're making it accessible through their app store, which are jointly between the two of them, they have basically every human on the planet connected, right? So or at least everybody that has internet's already connected. So, stuff like that can happen. It's unlikely, right? But you're always making a bet, right? You're always taking some risk when you're integrating the technology. But more so than that, I think if you think about the fact that you can change to other technologies in the future, that will help you abstract away the API in a proper manner, right? And I think that that's also one of the different, because you were asking previously what's the differentiator between what we do and what everybody else does. Like everybody else is tying themselves not only to like a specific technology like UVM or EUTXO, they're tying themselves to specific standards. Like when you use their SDKs, you're using functions like new, to give you an example, right? New smart contract dot standard dot ERC 721, which is the most popular NFT standard interface. And a developer has, like, if you're a game developer, you have no idea what the hell an ERC 721 is. Like, why would you? Right? That's not what you do. So these guys, like, and again, I have a lot of respect for many of our colleagues, but they're making Web3 stuff for Web3 people. So what they did with that SDK is make my life easier. They made Carlos and DEGA's work easier because we understand what they're doing, and they basically simplified it so that we can build more on top of that. But they're not making a Unity developer's life easier. They're not making an Unreal Engine developer's life easier. They're not making a web developer's life easier. And they say, oh, well, we have the SDK for all of this different types of applications, right? For Unreal Engine, for Unity. I'm like, dude, but nobody can use it. Nobody can jump in and use that SDK. They have to go and learn what an ERC 721 is, what an EVM is, what an RPC endpoint is, what a GraphQL indexer is. There's no way they're going to jump in and use your SDK. Not even within a day. They need like a week to learn it. So that's the difference in the approach we're taking, right? Like for our tooling and our understanding of technology and integration of technology is in the fact that we understand that we have to separate that very nuanced specification from what we're providing to our end users, right? And it'll take some time to get that right. It's not something we're going to do like in 3 weeks, but that's kind of like the difference.
And that's why we want to see DEGA happen. So before jumping into our last question, I want to invite our audience to ask your own questions here in the chat, and we will try to answer them all. The ones that we don't get to answer, we can answer in our Discord or Telegram, and we will take them there. But please ask your questions. Don't let any doubt or any specifics hold you down. And the other thing is, today we will be announcing, at the end of the day, you still have 12 hours to vote for your favorite DEGA soundtrack. There are three finalists competing for that reward. It's 75,000 DEGA tokens. And if the winner belongs to a tribe, the tribe will take an extra 25,000 DEGA tokens.
Mm,
And you
that's
know
cool.
why? Carlos just explained why you wanna be part of this dream, because it's gonna be huge. Carlos, have you listened to the finalists?
I haven't. Like the rabbit sent me the
Okay.
files yesterday. I have to go and take a few minutes to listen to it. But I'm sure it's pretty. Like if the rabbit sent it to me yesterday, it's because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool, and we have pretty cool people composing and creating music for Dega now. The voting is up. It's open right now in our Discord. You have to be level 5. It's not that hard to get to level 5. You just gotta talk and engage with people in order to level up to the star level, which is the level 5. So
Mm.
besides being my English teacher today, Carlos, I have one question. I have one final question, and is gamification is a big concept for you, for us, for everyone in this community, but also part of humanity. And so the question goes on this, like this: how does DEGA plan to contribute to the gamification of the internet? And when I say internet, I mean life.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like everything is on the internet right now. Okay, so if you want to do health, if you want to learn, if you want to build, whatever it is that you want to do, you most likely connect to the internet to do it, right? Just to be able to learn from other people, right? And that is a very key differentiation in the sense that unlike most animals, humans become considerably, not a little bit, like they become considerably more intelligent the more connected they are to other humans, right? That's why we cluster together in cities, in schools, because it works, right? It makes us more effective and efficient. So the internet is a big contributor to that, definitely. And like I'd still be living in Honduras if there was no internet, right? Like, and to be clear, like I am in Latin America still in Costa Rica, but I'd be very limited in terms of the people that I could connect with, the projects that I could undertake, and the knowledge and experience that I have accumulated over the last decade. I'd be extremely limited if I didn't have the internet, right? Like to give you an example there, just to set a little bit of perspective, right? Like I come from a small town in the Caribbean, in Honduras, right? Like it's you wouldn't be able to pinpoint it in a map if I told you where it is, or I mean, if I told you its name. But I, for example, already work for Avid Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the planet. I've worked for Wells Fargo Bank, the largest bank on the planet by deposits. Um, and I've been involved in blockchain for over 5.5 years now. I've worked with IOHK, one of the largest, ecosystem developers ever in this industry. So it's a very, interesting, let's say, set of experiences that I've had working with some of the largest, most important organizations, each of them in their respective industries. And I'm just a kid from, the Caribbean beach, right? Like that's where I was raised. So I never went to an Ivy League university, right? I learned most of what I know from the internet. So it's baffling how empowering this is and how, let's say, mundane it has become to us, right? Like we take it for granted. We really don't sit even 10 seconds a day to understand and value the power that we've been given by the internet. And blockchain takes it a step further, right? Like it's all about being able to transmit value now across the internet. Like now, for example, we in DEGA, everything is in blockchain, right? Like, we talk to investors and they send us capital in blockchain. We have clients and they pay us in blockchain. We pay everybody in the company in blockchain. So, using stable coins or ADA or Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it's all based on these decentralized value protocols, right? So the next stage that we see, right, which is one of the reasons that we decided to focus our technological development in gaming, is the gamification of everything, right? And we've already begun to see this in some applications. Like I always use Duolingo as an example. There's also Apple Health, right? And really, if you see the best, the most popular content generation tools like TikTok, they're structured and designed with game design principles, right? So everything that is becoming pervasive in our daily usage is gamified, right? And the reason for that is because I slightly touched based on this. I think it was on Friday. That life is like a fog, right? Life is messy. It's blurry. Like if I asked everybody here today, like I don't know, right? Are you a good son? Right? You would say, well, maybe. I guess I think I am, right? Um, but how would you measure it, right? How do you know that you're a better son today than yesterday? How do you know that you're a better brother or husband or if you're a sister or a wife or a daughter? How do you know that you're doing that role better every day, right? And it's a very tough question to ask, right? Like you really have to think about it a little bit. It's not just about somebody telling you, "Oh yeah, I love you." I mean, yeah, but they're gonna love you like basically no matter what you do in that sense, right? Like the people that are close to you are gonna love you, right? So how do you know that you're doing a better role every day, right? And that's the main challenge for life, right? How do you know that you're not, let's say, because we tend to think about our jobs most of the time, right? But let's think about, how do you know that you're a better citizen every day? Are you a better citizen today than you were yesterday? Did you help your country today more than you did yesterday, right? For the people that are religious, are you a more faithful follower today? than yesterday, right? And for us that are not, right? I don't have any religion. Are we better, let's say, humans today than we were yesterday, right? So that's kind of hard to ask, right? And that's a difficulty about life. It's a foggy thing. It's messy. It's not clear. And that's why humans like games, because in games you have quest, you have progression systems, you have power systems, you have um, reward and punishments for everything that you do. So you're very clear in the sense that either you're making progress, you're stagnant, or you're going backwards, right? So that's why we love gamification, right? That's why we love game design principles. They're not exactly the same. Gamification is a little bit different than game design principles, but the point is that they bring structure, right, to something, right? They give you an idea of progress or decline. And in DEGA, what we're going to do is basically build out the basic modules that you need to be able to build this type of experiences, right? Build progression systems, build power systems, build gamification, build engaging and compelling experiences. Simplify, right? We're going to simplify so that you don't have to worry about, are you using a layer two, a layer three, a layer one? Are you using a mutable or a nested or an equipable NFT? All of those things, we're just going to handle them for you. And you have to focus on the concepts, right? About are you going to capture your end user, your audience, right? Into the experience that you've built for them, right? Like, what is the value that you're building for them? How do you capture them? And how do you make this, a compelling story that you're going to take them through? And those are the modules that we're building underneath that are going to be our contributions, right? Going back to your question specifically, right? Those are the types of systems that we're building: progression, power systems, and engaging ecosystem design for the builders.
And I'm excited for that because I do know firsthand from you that we're gonna be applying a lot of those things in the DEGA experience. So and the
Yeah.
whole play your way. So they even that people were even asking today in the Discord this morning that what happened to Zeely and the Quest, and I told them, wait, we're working on a play your way gamification of the whole DEGA experience. It's gonna be part of DEGA as a whole. So because you see DEGA also as an RPG game, where you can develop your own character and take it as far as you can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously designing great experiences takes time, right? And we'd rather take our time right now and build something great than just throwing anything out there. We could do quests like right now, right? Like we were already doing that, and we can keep doing it, but not in the way that we want it, that we envision it right now. So it takes a little bit of time because we're building our own tools, right? So in the future, other people won't have to go through this, waiting period. They'll just have the products that we've built with the best practices that we've learned from our experience. So that's what it's about, right? We're trailblazing the path to gamification across the board.
Amazing. I think we're coming to an end. There are no major questions here from the community, Carlos. But I thank you very much for answering this questions that they might seem simple, but they have a lot of depth, and you gave it to the audience. So hopefully for the audience, this was a pretty clear and understanding message of what Dega is about, or a proof of what Dega is about. The vision is way bigger. But I want to invite everyone to vote for the finalists. Remember, you got to be level 5. It's really easy, but we got amazing songs there. Also, participating in the daily challenges or in order to be able to gain 1,000 daily Dega tokens. And we have our Discord economy out also, Carlos. So you can be claiming Dega points which in the future they will translate into really interesting things that I'm not allowed to say yet, but it claim your daily rewards, claim your hourly rewards, because those points are going to be worth it in this whole gamification of the tech.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And this is the time to get involved into data to say, to express your version of where you think we should take things. We're listening. We want to hear your voice. We want to see your content. We want to, connect with your expression and your culture. So let us know, and by all means, do take part in the challenges and show us your capabilities.
Hey, Carlos, thank you very much. I'm just going to say bye. You want to say bye?
Bye bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this space, and looking forward to having you again. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care and have a great DEGA week. Let's have fun in the Discord. Let's have fun in socials. See you around, people. Bye bye.